Yeah, guys, how's it going? I don't think this is working. Start recording, stop. Okay. Well, I think it's working. It says it's green, so I don't know. Gonna wait for 2 weeks. You forget how to run the software. I hit it but yeah, I hit it a little bit quick, and my voice sounds like crap. It has for the past 24 hours apparently, but I'm well rested, feeling pretty good. It's July 16th, and I've been back now for just under 24 hours, I would say. I got in last night about 9:30, 6:03 p.m. right now. And so it was the big trip. You never know you never know what your mind is going to do, or what you're going to get out of a trip, or what you're not going to get out of a trip, how you're going to feel. Um all kinds of really things. First of all, there we go. So I am live. That's nice. It takes a while for this to catch up, but I'm here, so that's good. Um, okay. Let me get out of that page then. I knew that would happen eventually. Maybe I should do that from now on, but nah, I don't need to. That's okay. So let me start with the trip. How about that? And as you can see, those are my Googles, the most 8 active pages that I use. YouTube is the top. I believe it goes by in order of which ones you use the most. And I was going to start this. Honestly, I was going to start not eating. Because yes, I'm sitting down and I'm eating again, because what did I do for the past hour? I wasn't eating anything. I had a very early supper, actually, at 3 o'clock. And, let's just say my whole eating, it was bad on the trip, to say the least. I mean, it was good and bad, I suppose, but mostly bad. I'm pretty sure I gained. I was bloated as hell. My voice went yesterday. Nah, my voice kind of went today, actually. I woke up this morning with this voice. I'm like, whoa. But there was somebody on the trip when I came back. I think I caught a cold from him, although I didn't really associate with him. He was just across the train aisle from me, sleeping, gagging, and oh my god. And of course, stupid me had to go sit in the same seat that he was in the dome. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was sitting there, and I moved to another spot, a more ideal seat. He was in probably the one right behind me, and I went to sit in, and I was, and I started feeling like some nasal runny nose type thing happening all of a sudden. This was about a night or so ago. I think I was still just getting into Ontario, which it takes a day to get through, and suddenly I was just like, whoa. Where's this cold coming from? And then I realized I think I know where I'm catching it. So, but yeah, sleep has been an interesting commodity, especially when you take coach. But so yeah, pardon me for eating. I know it's a bad habit. I'm not eating much, just one little bar. I just figured I'd get something in me for now. So while I chomp on this, for those of you not familiar with what Canada is, yeah, we don't live in igloos. Those of you that don't. And, yeah, that's basically where I live, St. Catharines, Ontario. So when I zoom out, there's Toronto across Lake Ontario. Now that is, essentially I started the trip from bus to Toronto. And then the Canadian basically takes me all the way west to here. Actually, Vancouver. Vancouver is a big city not too far away from Seattle. Suddenly my voice is feeling better. Maybe I need to eat more. No, not really. I have been I've actually been in more places in the United States probably than I have Canada, because most of it is restricted, you know, close to the border. Although this train takes the more northerly route as opposed to the most direct south route of the Canadian Pacific. This takes the Canadian National, which takes a more northerly route. Once you hit Winnipeg, which is over here, zoom in there, yeah, it takes a more route towards Saskatoon, Edmonton. It comes across through Jasper, which really doesn't have other than the national park, and you can see the mountains are here, so there's a lot. They're in a serious drought, and they've been getting a lot of forest fires, so that was kind of interesting. I was hearing more and more about them. I actually stayed here on Vancouver Island, and it's just basically the most livable portion is east, although I did get to a place called Tofino, which is right around there. I think that's there. No, maybe not. Where is Tofino? I know you're there. I thought you were there. Hot Springs? No, what the hell? Come on. Oh, Pacific Rim? No, on point. I don't know. Where the hell was I? I wasn't that far up, was I? No. I wasn't as far as there. And this map sucks. I was in the Pacific Rim. Oh. Crap, I came down here. I came back all the way south? You kidding me? It doesn't really say. I'm sure it was the Pacific Rim. I can't find Tofino. Hold on a second. I'm Lake Cowichan. Port Alberni was where I went through Port Alberni, but then I came down to Tofino. Oh, there we are. Yeah, that's it. Highway 4. I heard Ushlet was better. I should have gone there as opposed to Toledo. I would have liked it better, but instead I had to go to the trendy Tofino. Watch all the surfers. So that now marks the. I was out. Like I went down to the end of the road basically, which really doesn't show much other than a bunch of things. But I ended up coming back here. I think that's Long Beach. Yep. So that's where I hung out for a little while there. But when zooming out, I can now say officially that is the furthest west I've ever been. So that's cool. Man, I didn't realize how close. I actually was in a place called Duncan. This is where I stayed most of the time. Cowichan Lake, that was cool. Spent a lot of time there. Port Alberni. I was all the way up Nanaimo. I took this ferry here on the Trans-Canada. Train came to Vancouver. I'm just trying to think how far up. I did get to Parksville. I got a rental of a car for only 2 days. At first I wasn't going to pay it, and then I went to Qualcomm Beach. And that's about as far up the seaboard I went. I did not go into Victoria this time. It is a freaking... That's a mess. To drive... Anybody... The Malahat, they call it. Anybody wants to drive down this way, it's a nut job. Victoria is just... It's nuts. Vancouver I can handle. At least it's got a transportation system. I'm sure Victoria has one, but yeah, not my idea of a vacation. And I didn't feel like playing bumper cars with a car rental. So I got a car rental for $72 Canadian, which is not bad for 2 days, unlimited, and was able to get to Nanaimo, Tofino, all the way up as far as something beach. Where is it? I know you're there. Oh, Qualcomm Beach, yeah, somewhere around. I think it was Qualcomm Beach I went to. So I went on 19A there for a while. It was fun. I really, really wanted to get to this road here, but last it started turning after Yubu, which I affectionately call Boo Boo, but because there's a boo boo in the road right about here where it just turns into dirt, and I really wanted to take this road right here. I just thought, yeah, this would be cool. Yeah. No. Not with a rental car. Wasn't it? I've been to Port Renfrew before. I have been to Victoria. The last trip I made, seen it once. Don't need to see it again. I mean, Victoria's okay. I got nothing against Victoria. It's just, it's a city, and it's by water. Okay, that's all there is to it. There's nothing else about Victoria that inspires me. I love Vancouver. If anything, I wish I'd be able to spend more time in Vancouver because there's a lot of stuff. The transportation system, first of all, is awesome. You get a day pass here, you can go pretty much anywhere. But the last two trips, I've been basically had a home here. Biological family that I met about. I guess it's coming along. I don't know. It seems like I'm not sure how long now. To be quite honest, about 10 years. About that. So, knowing them for about 10 years, now this my second trip was 5 years apart. So knowing that, I thought, yeah, this would be really, really cool. Now, we headed in. Oh, Hell's Gate, that's awesome. This is where the train goes. It comes up through Hell's Gate. You guys probably, especially rail fans, can appreciate what this is. Hell's Gate, there's a crossover up here where there's CP line, CN line crosses. If you want to see traffic, there's tons of it. I mean, it gets ridiculous. This is mainly a single track main line. What's cool about that though is CN has theirs, CP does theirs. They have directional running for a little bit here, but then they start going back. Even with directional running here, it's really cool because you get to see the trains. And these trains were ridiculously late. I don't know what the hell's going on, but man, the biggest issue I'm finding is Edmonton. I don't know what's going on with Edmonton, but man, the passengers are just getting the shit kicked out of them. Pardon the pun, language, whatever. But they can't get anywhere. It happened going west. I thought west was bad, then east, and they said there was some wheel issue. I don't know if that was the case. I heard it was because of train traffic. I believe it was because of train traffic. Because that's exactly what happened. We left on time out of Vancouver. Despite the fact there was forest fires, despite the fact I heard rumors that this train was being delayed because of said forest fires. We didn't have any delays because of forest fires as far as I could tell. The issues started coming when we started coming into Edmonton and started trailing trains. Jasper was fine. Everything was fine going here. I think we left, relatively speaking, on time at Jasper. We may have fell behind a tiny bit. There was smoke, but that wasn't hampering operations that I could tell. There may have been more traffic because I believe this section may have been closed due to some forest fires. I'm not sure. And that may have been some of the issue too. There might have been some detouring going on. I don't know the situation, but other than that, other than what I heard or could see, this wound up getting us as late as 8 hours late coming into Toronto. I actually didn't mind that because what that did was it did a few things. One, it made Winnipeg, instead of a late night stop, it turned into an early morning stop. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning when my air conditioning had shut off in my seat, and there I was sitting just about getting ready to be broken up. And they did a so-called 10-minute stop in Winnipeg. I mean, you got to be kidding. This is normally a 4-hour stop, but they were only allowing people to go out for 10 minutes, I guess because it was the middle of the night. Somebody did a taxi run for $15 and was able to get to a 7-Eleven, a few things. That's the toughest part on this trip, is trying to get supplies. I mean, yeah, you can get all the things, well, for the most part, that what you want, although they ran out of pizza subs going east for some stupid reason. I had them going west, no problems, and then the train was full both ways. They had some promotion going on. It was Canada's 150th birthday, so what did they do in July? Because Canada Day was July 1st. first they had a bunch of exchange students. They had a tour go through. They had all kinds of crap going on going west. I thought it was bad then, and then I thought, oh yeah, it's gonna ease down going east. No. East, it was packed up. That was like, so, you know, a lot of loud kids, a lot of people who want to stay up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because that's what kids do at that age. You know, not necessarily that late, but you know, the time you would basically stay up until the bars close, even though they weren't drinking, of course. But that's what they did. Well, they sold beer on the train, so maybe they were drinking. I don't know. Didn't seem like that. Well, who knows? Nobody seemed drunk. Put it that way. Loud, but no. But yeah, so that's what I did. Sudbury. Well, what happened was the cool thing about being this late was it allowed me to come in a lot later into Toronto, because what happens is Toronto, it's supposed to leave at 10:30. Our train was delayed because of all the delays of the previous trip, because they turn around in a 24-hour window, or less than that, I should say. They turn around in about a 12-hour window in Toronto, get cleaned and then turned around, serviced, resupplied, all that other stuff. And what happened was the previous train before we started arrived at about 7 o'clock at night, which was, give or take, a little later. I think it was a little later than us. It was, actually, because ours came in at 6:30 or something, or I don't know what it was. It wasn't that bad. It was 8 hours, so we were supposed to be there at 9:30, 10, 11, 12, 1. 5:30? 5:40. Yeah, we came in, we made some pretty good time once we hit Sudbury. Once we had a little delay in Sudbury, and then I don't know where all the traffic went, but we were just smoking through this. Well, I shouldn't say we were smoking. You got little speed limits through here through the Canadian Shield, but once you get past the Canadian Shield, the speed starts picking up towards Toronto. We had little to no opposition heading to Toronto. Absolutely little to no. That was, you'd think coming into Toronto would be where the delays are. No, it's Edmonton. But anyways, that was the geographic nature of the trip. And like I said, I've been through a lot of different places. Last March break, not the previous March break, the one this year, but the one from last year, I made it to Denver. I did a 6-day road trip from Niagara. I'll never do that again because I'm the only one driving. My son said there was one day I drove for 14 hours. I didn't realize I drove that long for one day, but you know, I was into some serious fatigue issues. Never to a dangerous point, but I was so it was night and day compared to this one. Yes, this trip actually, you lose a lot of sleep, then you gain a lot of sleep. You sleep during the day sometimes you're up at night. I had horrible weather as predicted. Somebody told me I was going to have some bad weather going out, and he was right on. I had some pretty bad weather heading out all the way to Winnipeg. Lots of rain and crap. Once we hit Winnipeg, I don't think I saw a raindrop again until the first raindrop I saw was today. And that's how long it's been since I've recall seeing. Oh, I shouldn't say that. No, there was a nice thunderstorm in Calgary coming east, but other than that, no, it was it was great weather in British Columbia. Unfortunately, they really need the rain, and they've been on. I don't know how their weather is now, but they really need it. But you know, it is what it is. So, anyways, I wanted to get that through. Of course, my nostrils are starting to cause issues here, so let me. I don't care. No, you don't want to see where I live. So that's that one. But of course, the main news is not Run 8 servers. Run 8. Run 8 Studios, that's the one. Yeah, it's been a while. I can't remember where I'm going. That's okay. So, let me just leave it there for a moment while you ponder that for a second. And I'll be right back. I gotta clear a nostril or two. Hate going back to work with a cold too, but it is what it is. So yes, Seligman sub is now available. Um, Now I knew that the 40 T2 pack had been released. I wasn't really interested in that just because I'm not running in the West right now. And Wellpark Pack 2 I was actually kind of interested in. But for whatever reason, I got caught up in the whole let me, let me just focus on the trip, and I decided to not focus on Run 8. It's safe to say that I haven't focused on Run 8 now for easily 3 weeks. In fact, it feels like a 3-week vacation. And I say that with interesting ways of saying that. Because I was on my forum tonight, and there's not much going on there. In fact, my last post is about 5 threads deep. I checked other forums. I've checked, I checked Mike's forum just to see what he was doing. He installed it, and I guess they're running it. I don't know if they have dispatchers for it, but it's on his server. I'm inclined to try it. I'm tempted. There was a post over at TrainSim where there was somebody kind of in my shoes where, and don't get me wrong, these are Run 8 supporters. They've been critical, like myself, of Run 8. They're not afraid to be critical, like myself. But there was definitely, these guys have done a lot of work. There's no question about it, and I'm not going to take you through all of this. I don't know where we're at in the community here. We're still here. I mean, this randomly changes all the time. It hasn't changed too much. Of course, there's Run 8 servers right now. There's at least one session posted. So how does this really tie in? And this is going to be one of these videos where it's not going to be very visually interesting. You're going to hear my voice, and that's about it. So if you're looking for some visual excitement, you've come to the wrong place. This video isn't going to be it. But what I do have to say is really something that I haven't had time to really think about. And that is, what is it that I really want to do? I was questioning myself before, and I was trying to convince myself, yeah, well, I still love what I'm doing, and there's times I do love what I'm doing in Run 8. So Seligman's out. I guess LA's gonna come out. I don't know. It looks like they don't have a list anymore here of. They used to have a list of all their future things that they wanted to do. I remember seeing Alaska, and I don't know. Honestly, if Alaska was another flavor or another niche that I could get myself into, and it was interesting, then that would be pretty cool. And I should have left that map on, but I'll just say this. With the exception of pretty much a couple of the major centers that are a little bit of double track. The majority of the lines in Canada are all single track main lines. Now, I'm what you call a signal geek, I guess you would say. This trip had some interesting. First of all, number one, I spent most of my time doing what was important and prioritizing what was important to me, and that was uh, being a dad to my son, giving him the experience he needed, and giving him the knowledge that I needed to give him. Though that was my top priority. It wasn't about me reflecting on what I need to do. Wasn't about me reflecting what I need. It was all about what does he need. That being said, that's okay because him and I have a lot of the same needs, and I mentioned Run 8 a few times with him, but he's kind of becoming more interested in this, but he's not quite there yet. And I'm not going to push it on him because I don't think that's the right thing to really, because I think he's got more creative juices and a lot more power to be able to. I mean, he's turning 9 tomorrow. He's got a lot more potential. I mean, he's got inventions in his mind right now, which is really cool. And we were talking about him, and the funny thing was that his inventions are similar to my thoughts that I had of things. And so we talked to it, we brainstormed a bit. How would this work? And I'm not going to go into the inventions because, quite frankly, um, even though he's willing to tell everybody, and he probably will, knowing him, I told him, I said, don't go spreading around everything you want to do to everybody because somebody might just run with it. And I said, I says, you by all means you could talk to me and talk to your family that you trust. And I says, but he was, him and his friends are talking about it. They got invested in inventions and ideas. And I said, I tried to tell him. I said, you know, I tried to educate him about that certain friends will stab you in the back. Certain family will stab you in the back, but I trust his mom. I trust his grandmother. I trust myself. That ain't gonna happen with me. I wouldn't do that to him, and I trust him. He wouldn't do that to me. So, not to say that I can't have it. It's a little bit different with friends, and that's just my take of things because I've never, although I have a lot of trust, I wouldn't go all the way in trying to lay out an invention with a friend necessarily. I've done it before, safely, because probably some of my ideas weren't the greatest, but we talked about that a little bit. So it had nothing to do with trades, so I don't know why I'm even mentioning it, but that's the kind of things we focused on. And of course, having a great time. We went tubing in Lake Cowichan, not Lake Cowichan, we had the Cowichan River, and at Lake Cowichan, and it was I've been down some small rapids with a tube before, in a boat. He was in an inner tube, so he was in an inner tube. He could barely swim, and he had no life jacket on or anything. He was just tied up to me. It wasn't that deep, and they were pretty good around. I mean, they're a little class, I guess 1 they are or whatever, the lowest class there is. Um, I don't even know if it's that class. I guess they are, but so yeah, we went down those rapids. I couldn't. I couldn't see eventually he tied up to me. It started out he didn't know how to row, right? And I thought, oh boy, this isn't gonna go too well. So we couldn't even get out onto the current, let alone get off the dock. And I told him, I said, don't worry, you're gonna get wet. I says, I'm probably gonna get wet too. And I was in jeans and a t-shirt. I had my wallet with me, my cell phone, the whole thing. And I knew what risk I was taking by doing that. And I figured if my cell phone died, good. Let it die. I don't need it. That was my attitude. I couldn't care less about my cell phone. I was just like, okay, my cell phone goes. That's okay. I'll live. I didn't care. I honestly did not care because, quite frankly, I'm about to get rid of my cell phone pretty soon. Or at least update it or do something with it. So I didn't care. If it was going to die, fine. If my money got wet, which it did. Now, the funny thing was, my cell phone never got wet. My cell phone barely got a drop on it. Ass end of my pants got all soaked. Which included my wallet, which, you know, no big deal. The money dried out. I didn't have that much in me anyways, so got a nice little cleaning of the credit cards. I mean, bank cards, whatever, but no damage. No harm, no foul, I guess. There was one time where he submerged me though, or partially submerged. Everything was going okay, but suddenly, like I'm steering, he's behind me, and we come up to this rock, and I'm steering. I'm trying to steer the left or something, and they came up like out of nowhere. I was just like, oh crap! Well, what am I gonna do? And I barely just missed it because I knew if I hit it, and this happened to me a couple times, where I got submerged. With him, he's in an inner tube. I'm in a raft, a raft that's actually smaller than my raft boat, which I haven't used in 3 years. And yeah, so I avoided it while he's in the rope with me attached to the inner tube. And what happens? He gets caught up on the rock. So he's basically tugging at me. We're in the middle of the rapid. The rapid starts filling me in. And I just pulled the raft to get him off the damn rock. But meanwhile, I mean, the water's just starting to gush into the back end of the boat. I'm like, oh no, don't totally submerge me. That was the worst feeling I had. I was like, crap, I'm going down. And I could swim. I wasn't worried about it. It's not that dangerous undertow or anything. This was fine. I'm a good swimmer. I'd be fine. I'd be able to save him. Whatever, you know. Everything was going to be fine. And no, I was like, you know, it was a great time. And you know, it had my adrenaline up. I was nervous a few times. I didn't know what was going to happen a few times. I had probably one of the coolest thrill rides. Beat that out of any amusement park. It was, you know, you really didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't realize if you were in imminent danger or what, but I don't think I ever really felt that much, but it felt like that at some times. And then it got so peaceful to the point where we're floating along this lazy river current. There was points where it's just like a lazy river after you get through the rapids. And we're floating along, and up comes a deer. We saw a lot of animals on this trip. We never saw one this close. And then a second deer comes. And it's literally this was the closest deers I've ever seen in the wild, and it had no issue coming up towards us. I heard later on that they used to have bears go through that area. Now, we saw a lot of bears on this trip. Black bears. I guess there was a brown-colored black bear, if that makes sense. My son thought it was a grizzly. I said, you're not going to see a grizzly in Manitoba. We saw our first shots of really interesting bears and deers come Manitoba, heading west out of Ontario. I don't think I saw any no, I didn't see any black bears in Ontario, although there are some in the central and northern parts. We didn't see any there, but so yeah, that was, and as you can see, that's where my focus still. That's where my memories are right now. That's where my mind still is. I'm soaking that all in and saying, yeah. One thing that was interesting, though, and I want to head this back over to this whole Signal Geek thing. So I'm a Signal Geek. And, you know, I don't have any... I wish I had videos of what it's like. But, let me... No. Get out of here. I don't know. Signals at night? No. Trade signals at night? How about that one? Oh, yeah. So, I don't know why this was, one that catches my attention, I guess. So, this is cool. There's a lot of good ones here. Oh yeah, those are neat. But anyways. Oh yeah, these are the good color light ones. We have a lot of these in... It's not the position. Those are color lights. Position light. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So yeah, we have that's more. That's a color position. That's like the B&O whatever type it is. But anyways, yeah, this is more. That's oh yeah, that's Britain. Okay, gotcha. I thought that looked a little weird. I can see the different. Ah, that's okay. I don't want to get into this so much. That's kind of cool. But anyways, what's really cool about the various signals is that's not too bad. Although that looks like. Hang on a second. I'm just trying to find the right one. Kind of cool. Well, anyways, okay. So I'm a bit of a signal geek, and whoa, that's a neat one. I don't want to log in. Get out of here. I'm not a member. Continue. You missed a spot. Wait. I don't want to see more. Screw off. Okay, fine. I'll continue as me. Oh, piss off. I hate... You're an idiot. Get lost. Stupid ass. Hey, continue as... Yeah, you gotta sign in. I don't miss computers in the least. My son took all the pictures and videos. Well, we took some. I took some for him and all that other stuff. But put it this way. In the daytime, of course, there's the scenery. And there's lots to see. There's a lot of boring stuff, but there's a lot of majestic stuff. It's one of the best trips you can take. A little bit on the expensive side compared to Amtrak, from what I've been told. And if I actually do a cross-country venture, I choose Amtrak next time. But that being said, I've done Amtrak Maple Leaf, So I mean it's stuff to keep in mind, but I'm in the position right now of saving money. My mind had already started shifting towards that. Somewhere about a month or two ago, I started really shifting into it after I already purchased tickets and all, made, tons of plans already for this trip. So I was following through no matter what. But I used to be, and I guess I still am a signal geek, but Run 8 has actually normalized a lot of this feeling for me. Because Run 8 is so real and realistic when it comes, for the most part, to signals. Dispatching systems, not so much, although with TSCAD in development, I guess that's going to be a payware. I heard today it's going to be, I think it's going to be a payware on a base, and then he's going to charge for additional routes or something like that, which, it is what it is. who knows? Maybe I'll do a freeware one time if I get the guts to do it. Um, I thought about it. I thought about doing an AI dispatcher at one point too, but I haven't found the support I need or the enough incentive to do it. And yeah, I'll get to that in a moment. But I used to be the type who would. This was 5 years ago. Now, the great thing about it was 5 years ago when I was on the Canadian. I'm trying to think. It was 5 years ago. I didn't have much time into Run 8. I think the beta team. It was in May. So I'm not even sure if I was member of the beta team yet. I could have still been doing MSTS then, I think. I don't know when I joined the beta team. It was somewhere that year. But when I was on that trip, my marriage had just failed not too long prior to that. It failed the previous September, if I'm not mistaken, of the prior year. So I know, he was fairly young. He was not, he was like 3 years, and of course his birthday's tomorrow, so 3 years, 10 months. He remembers, he remembers a lot of things from that trip. Amazingly, well, now with the way his memory is, he's going to remember a lot of this, and hopefully he doesn't have the memory issues that I ran into as I got older. And I try to tell him how important it is not to do stupid ass things, because back then, and I still see kids do stupid ass things and go on dares and stuff like that, and everybody thinks it's really cool, and then you get your head hit a few times and you get concussions, even some sports. He's into karate, and he's fine. He's got headgear on and all that other stuff, but for now. But I am like, whoa. So it's one of those things. I might actually. I don't have Kleenex with me right here, but I'm having issues. So. It's going to be one of those nights. I'll get to this in a second. Just give me a second here. And I'll be right back. So normally I'd have a session at 7 o'clock tonight. Obviously that ain't happening. And let me mute this for a second. Okay, sorry about that. But I brought the rest with me whenever I need it. So so that year, I remember, and I was like this for every time I went up. We didn't have a simulator that really, unless you played a few activities now and then you played the activities in MSTS, and you knew where the signals were, it really wasn't that intriguing. You didn't have the surprise factor. As a dispatcher, you had nothing. You weren't a dispatcher. The only way you were going to be a dispatcher was in Train Dispatcher 3, which I also was still running up to around that time. So Run 8 came out, and that changed everything for me, because suddenly now I knew what to anticipate with signals, and I knew what the signals meant. I knew what they all meant. It was just cool seeing it live in action. So what happened was, this was around the longest day of the year, and the further north you are, the longer the days are, because of the closeness to the North Pole, which is sounds kind of strange, but the Arctic, the sun doesn't go down in the longest day of the year, and then in the winter it never comes up. So the further north you are, and here, we get sometimes with the sun setting around 11 o'clock at night. I remember going through the prairies, and the sun was, you could still see twilight. Worst part about it was the damn dome car we are. And by the way, our domes are, I don't know what the domes, I don't know of a dome that is better than the dome in the Canadian. I just don't know a dome that is better than the one in the Canadian. There's some map. I can go in and, yeah, I'll show you whatever. Let me just go into another one here. So, or I should have done right into the images, actually. Yeah, let's do that. How about we do? Yeah. Now, okay, so this is the panorama. Now, this one's the panorama dome. It was on our train for first class. I don't like those. They came from BC Rail, apparently. This is what you'll get on some of the Amfleet ones as well. Personally, not my favorite. This, however, is. Now, you might be looking at that and saying, okay, well, the panorama gives you more of a view. And if you're looking for scenery and looking for things, yeah, I get that. You can see a hell of a lot more in the panorama. Perhaps it makes it more interesting. I don't know. I like sitting right up here or here. And unfortunately, they put a stupid ass card table for a seat for 4 right at this one. I don't know why they do it on this one. They've done it since I've been on it. I can't stand it. Because it used to be just either myself, or eventually it became myself and my son. And I feel guilty. Like, when I go in a restaurant, the rest are all 2-seaters. All the way to the back. But this one, they put in a stupid-ass card table. They got card tables down here for playing freaking cards. I mean, yeah, and people are going up here playing cards. Okay, well, fine, that's great and all, and I basically use it to put some books on, a few other things about the route I'm actually on to see where the hell I'm going, right? Because that's why I'm up there. I spend the majority of my daylight hours and some of my sleeping hours in this dome. The reason why I sleep up there is, number one, the demand for this is lower, so you're usually not going to be bothered and you're there for the next morning. They don't like you sleeping in the dome, by the way, which is interesting. But what's cool about that, and I could have gone back to my last shot with the images, what's cool about it is being in the dome at night, you get to see well in front of you the signals, which unfortunately this year, and they've always had this, and usually you could ask them and they'll turn it off. They have lights in here, and they had both bars. They have 2 bars of lights at the center, and normally they shut them off. I remember last trip we were on, when I turned them off, my kid freaked. You know, he was not even 4 yet, and he freaked because he thought he couldn't see it. And I was trying to calm him down. I'm saying, relax. We want to see that now. He can see out the windows, because all of a sudden it was dark, and you know he wasn't scared of the dark, but he didn't think he was going to be able to see anything. So he wasn't too happy about that. And then I calmed him down, and he was just like, "Oh, okay." That was I remember that trip. That trip was a lot more stressful to manage my son than this trip was. I mean, we had times where, you know, there was times where he was driving me a little crazy, you know, getting to that age where he knows it all and stuff like that. But my son and I get along great. So those times are few and far between, and sometimes he has a difficult time listening. But anyways, most of that, he's a good kid. But you know, I don't want to compare him to other kids or say my kid's special or anything like that. I'm not going to go that far. You know, he's certainly special to me. for obvious reasons. But this is the best dome car there is that I'm aware of. And what's cool about that is, like I said, you can see we were going back. We were actually the 8th car. Usually coach is very close to the engine. It's the closest to the engine. First class, and these were long trains. As you can see, Canada 150s beside it. Well, they had this whole thing where, by the way, I spent like, well, I don't know what the hell it was, 700 per ticket. I think I got a little bit off for a two-way. My son got a reduced price. My son actually paid more than this 150 for a child, for a youth. I'm pretty sure he did, anyways. And they gave away. They're going to give away unlimited ones of these through a certain amount of time, and then they had to. That's amazing. They only have 16 in the fleet. They only have 3 Canadian trains in service currently, but some of they had as many as 4 of these on our train. But this whole Canada 150, that totally booked the trip solid. I guess the idea is to give youth a chance to, and we're talking teenagers and those going into college, a chance to do something like they wouldn't do otherwise because, they're too busy with all their awesome school projects and all the stuff they're studying for and all the debt they're paying, to give them a chance to, just basically spend their parents' money and go out and basically explore Canada where they wouldn't have the chance to otherwise. So to increase their whatever, and maybe help their psychology degrees and all that other useful crap that they take in school nowadays, which really is useless crap that just goes on a piece of paper to say that, hey, hire me. So, it means actually nothing most of the times in the workplace. But anyways, it's not jealousy. I just find it hilarious with people with a lot of intelligence, and they're just hurtled around like sheep. I'm the type of person that goes against. I tend to go against establishment. I tend to go against the current. And no. Ooh, I heard thunder. Very nice. That's cool. So anyways, so I was getting back to this dome car and what has changed. One, it was the longest day of the year, so I wanted to maximize the amount of time I got up here during the daylight. So I tended to try to stay up early. Now, of course, leaving at 1:30 in the morning didn't help because suddenly we want to see things, and I don't recall what the hell happened that first night, as my memory, even short term, can get a little goofy sometimes. But I know we were delayed at least 3 hours before this train left Toronto, and I know we spent. I think, if I'm remembering, I think we went to Perry. We stayed in the dome as far as Perry Sound, and then we went back to our seats to sleep for the night, and then we got up. We actually got up fairly early the next day, so we barely had any sleep. And that's life on the train, basically. You know, especially in coach, sometimes you get a little bit of sleep, and sometimes you make up with it. By the end of the trip, you're usually getting more, because then your body is so exhausted. I wasn't exhausted this trip. I didn't feel exhausted. There have been other trips where I have felt exhausted, and I was surprised because I know trips like Denver did exhaust me. But that was because I was doing all the driving. This didn't exhaust me. I wasn't exhausted at all. It was something I could handle, something my son could handle, and for us it was really good. But here's the thing with the signals, and why I mentioned Run 8. Before, when I went up in this dome, I would watch the signals, and I knew what the signals meant. Like I said, I was a signal guy. I followed all the signals, and I used to go rail fanning just to get to a certain position where I'd see a particular signal that I hadn't seen before. And I'm like, oh, And wasn't much for taking pictures. I didn't care about that stuff. You know, I had other friends who would take pictures and post them to his web pages, and they're still there. But to be able to see some of the picture, and I remember, like, this was my, like I said, my fifth, sixth trip. I don't know. I'm losing count now how many. I've done it for 20, 25 years. And to see the this time around, it wasn't as intriguing for me. And I'm running over single track railroad for the most part. It's kind of, you know, at first it cool, but then it lost its appeal. I wasn't so interested in that anymore. I mean, yeah, I was interested, and yeah, it was cool, and maybe it's because it's not so new, and you know the urge will get there. But now you know, it's kind of weird because suddenly I felt as though this made you feel like you were part of the crew. It made you feel like, because you were seeing the signals. You knew when the train was going to pull in the siding. You knew when we were behind another freight. You knew all these things. All you had to do was see that you were following a bunch of flashing yellows. Well, what happens in very many sessions on the California lines? You're following flashers. If you're behind, you know, and there's times where they wouldn't get the freights out of the way. There was other times where we sat and waited for 3 freight trains to pass us. So it was an interesting trip, to say the least. But this time around, it was different, because all of a sudden the signals weren't so appealing, and I found that very interesting. It was kind of bizarre, to say the least. And I thought, wow, that had changed. I didn't expect that. And that was one of the surprising things. If anything was surprising about the trip, was that I wasn't as thrilled about being able to see all the signals. I wanted to be there to see it a lot of times, but I wasn't so worried about staying up late. And I remember times where we ran in the desert, and it was so cool just seeing the various, you know, being moved over tracks, and in certain double track areas where we did have them, and overtaking, and we did overtakes on this trip. It didn't, you know, because I was used to it. I haven't run a session like that in a little while, so it's been a while since I've run in a session like that as well, which is kind of odd. I thought that would have, you know, maybe put a spark in me. And it kind of did, in a way, you would think. But then, again, it didn't. I'll get to that in a second, because I'm gonna move on here and show you what's next before I start doing other things. I'll be back in a second here. Grabbing a drink. So that's that was the trip in a nutshell. And like I said, we spent. I want to just sum up where my mindset was. When I left, I made a video and I said I wasn't worried about stopping running sessions for a period of time. I wasn't worried about you know, there was no I didn't feel there was no urgency. I wasn't like there's only one person that runs with me currently, so on a regular basis, so I didn't feel like I was letting anybody down. I'm not nearly as relevant as I once was. Sometimes I want to be. There's times where I want to be. There's times where I look, honestly, I look at somebody like, you know, with T-Scad, and I see the work he's suddenly doing, and I'm thinking to myself where he was before. I don't know what he went through, but there was a time where he was developing something and then it just stopped, and he had some personal issues or something. I'm not too sure what happened, Now suddenly his relevancy's gone way up because he's posting videos like crazy. There's other videos out there that do great videos. BNSF Productions. I was watching some of the videos too. I appreciate being able. That's actually. I wanted to do this a little earlier tonight because I wanted to catch up on a few other things and just take it easy and not worry about Run 8 tonight. But I did want to do this video at least to let people know where I'm at. But I watched the video with the Seligman sub, and I'll get to that in a moment. But let me just close off my whole thought process going in and coming out. Going in, I thought, yeah, we're going to get to points where him and I are just going to be bored. He's going to go on his computer because he's older, and I'm going to have times where I just, am able to think about things. Despite the fact that this is a 3.5-day trip, not counting the delays, and times that by 2, and the driving and everything that else is involved, my son and I slept together for the most part and stayed awake together for the most part. There were times where I slept when he was awake. I'd doze and he'd be awake. He'd doze and I'd be awake. But for the most part, we were on the same schedules. And I had times, even a couple days ago, I had times to think about these things. And, the thought crossed my mind, but I just let it all, I just let the moment fade, sink into what it is I was doing. I really didn't think about Run 8. In fact, I didn't miss it at all. That's a scary, that's a scary thing, because today I came to the realization is, you're home. You're home now, and you're back to everything. And he had the right attitude. He was like, tomorrow's his birthday. He was excited about that, and he was excited about the fact that this was now his vacation. So this was the right time to take the trip on his frame, because had I taken this trip at the end of the summer, what would have happened was he would have been a miserable guy. And he would have been a lot more upset. He was sad like I was when we left the island. He got sad when we left the Rockies too. Didn't ever come to tears. And it would be okay if he did. His mom was at tears today when he saw him. And, his mom really missed him. This was the longest he's been away from his mom. So I kind of, I said, oh, mommy missed Dad. And, I was just bugging her. But of course, my ex-mother-in-law say, yeah, she really missed him. I says, I know. I says, I don't know what I would do that amount of time, because I've never had to not see it. Actually, next year he's going out east apparently with them. Not even as long, and I'll be honest. As much as I poke fun of it, I'd be to tears too. There's been times where I've been to tears just missing him for 2 days, like going on a Sunday night and going back to work and trying to get together. Actually, I'm fine right now. I've been fine. I've been able to keep it together. I could have easily turned negative, hated the fact that I had to go to work. I don't feel that way. I don't hate the fact that I have to go to work tomorrow. Do I want to do it? No, not really. Doesn't matter? No, not really. It doesn't matter. It's all good. I'm a little nervous, but I get nervous on a Sunday night as it is anyway, so. But no, I'm fine. I mean, the only thing that gets to me is I'm back to normality, and that whole friction or that whole feeling of freedom kind of slips away, because you're back to basically working your 8 hours a day and getting your 2 days off type routine. Of course, I get a holiday at the beginning of August. I get another one with Labor Day, and then all of a sudden my son's back to school. I'm like, whoa. But that's going to happen quick. But other than that, I'm looking ahead. I might take the U.S. Thanksgiving off, considering that I'm probably going to be pretty slow. But I don't know. So, anyways, let me go into where things are, where my frame of mind is about what's going on. So, I'm going to go over to Run8 Depot, and they have, of course, they have the announcement of the release. And I've already seen about all the well-packed cars and all that, which I still haven't got for some reason. And there's maybe, and they got some pretty cool pictures too. I can see. I mean, that bridge is cool. I mean, first of all, I think, and there's more on the photo gallery. I've seen some of the photos on the photo gallery. I might as well take a look at them here. There's some really cool stuff here. I haven't seen the dispatch board per se. Well, that looks cool. That's nice. Okay. Got some nice industries. You know, there's some repeats of their various assets, obviously. I see some new ones, though. I have seen, here's that one tunnel they have. Not that big of one, but it is what it is. That's what the real life is. This one looks kind of cool. That looks like a nice time scene. Oh yeah, I can go back. Yeah, why not just do that instead? I love that bridge. I think that bridge is cool. And the water. That looks kind of neat. So, here's what I'm getting out of this. Am I inclined to purchase this? The simple answer for me is no. Not because this isn't a great route, and because it's there, and there's some great assets. I saw there was a sign about foamers or something. Historic Route 66, Kingman. So, you know, really cool stuff. That's neat. Okay, so that's cool. And I saw some videos, of course, which I won't go in there. It's $40 US. I spent, you know, compared to what I spent on this trip, I mean, that's a bargain. So, you know, it's very easy for me to say, yeah, I'd get it. Thing is, I'm barely using California as it is now. Now, Seligman did go up on Mike's server. I wasn't too sure if he was going to do that because he's kind of scaled down as it is, just so that he can dispatch and keep it 24/7. But apparently he put it up. I checked his forum today. What I'm not finding is too many dispatchers of the entire route right now, so I don't know what's going on there, or if it's just because it's weekends or lack of weekends, because I know his dispatchers like to normally dispatch weekdays, which is not good for me because I work. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is that I need to figure out. Here's if this was a single track line, and I know I guess that's a single track section or a division or something. Well, not really, but this goes around a steel plant by the looks of it. If there was something, and I know there's a what do you call it? I know there's a industrial complex or whatever. Well, we already got that in Selkirk, so I'm fine with that. I'm in no hurry to give that up. What's interesting, though, is where my heart and where my true thoughts lie. And I may just run with it. I was going to post a session for tomorrow night. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that yet. And I don't want to be theatrical, really it doesn't matter at this point, because there's only one main person that I'm going to disappoint, other than myself. It isn't certainly going to be me, because personally, from my perspective, I don't think it matters. Um, it's I just spent it, and it wasn't about just taking the Canadian on the trip. It used to be about taking the Canadian. It used to be it used to be the trip, not the destination. It's become a lot of the destination now, simply because the destination's always Vancouver Island. In fact, I actually miss Vancouver itself. I didn't get to see nearly enough of Vancouver as I wanted to. And the way I did this, had I did this a little bit differently, I would have spent a hell of a lot more time in Vancouver. There was a time period in the middle where my biological mom was working for 4 days. She was working 4 days on, 3 days off. We had 4 days where we basically had free reign to do whatever the hell we wanted. It gets costly to take a ferry back, so getting back to the mainland probably wouldn't have been a bright idea, price wise. But had I scheduled it differently, or had I known in advance, or anything of that nature, if I knew for sure, I probably would have done it a little differently, and spent a little bit more time in Vancouver, even if I had to have a motel or something for one night or whatever, just to give myself that extra day in Vancouver. And I could have done it that way, actually, because as it turns out, she was working the day I arrived, so I could have waited. I could have just said, I'm going to spend that first night in Vancouver. We're going to do the Vancouver thing. We're going to get the day pass. And we did get the day pass, but we kind of rushed to the ferry terminal, and just so that we could, get up. And the ferry takes almost 2 hours as it is to get over there, an hour 40 minutes to be exact. And it was, yeah, it wasn't well planned on my part, but that's okay. I don't regret it. It did work out well. We got to do plenty of exploring on the island, but if I did it again next time, I've seen a lot of the island now. Now I'm kind of, if I ever do this again, it will probably be a lot different and under my control. The plan of attack next time for that trip, and I've already told my son, I says, this could be the last time you and I take a trip on the Canadian. And I warned him of that. And I said, don't let that scare you. That doesn't mean that you can't do it, nor does it mean that you can't do it with me at some point later on. And I said, but it probably means that you, or as far as I should say me, taking you is not going to be how it happens next time. I says, next time you may take me or vice versa. I says, but the next plan is once you get your license, you're driving with me. And you're going to drive parts of that journey. And him and I love to travel, and we're going to do it. So what does that leave me? And I was getting to that. I went back to that because I'm not 100% sure where I'm at now. All I know is I'm here. I had a little bit of a walk today, which was cool. Didn't really get to think about it much. A little bit. But then I just walked and enjoyed the fresh air and didn't think about it too much. But other than that, I asked myself, was I looking for... Originally, as I was coming back, there was a time where I was thinking, do I want to put a session up on Sunday night? And I would have started at 7. Originally, I'm thinking about putting a session tomorrow at 7. Right now, I don't feel like it. If it was up to me right now, I'd say no. I don't feel like it. And the only reason why I can do a session tomorrow is my son doesn't have soccer this week. So I had the opportunity to do one. The next time would be available would be Wednesday. That's where we'll see. Because then by then I'll have a few days to decompress. And to see where my mind is at. Because right now I'm looking at various forum posts. I'm seeing those that are excited to run on big servers with a lot of traffic. And they should be excited because now they got a lot more distances. I know a lot of people are doing full runs. That's great that they're doing full runs. it's getting, this is getting crazy because when you look at the number of routes here, okay, you're now got the BNSF Mojave sub, um, which includes needles. Doesn't say that, but does. It's the Mojave. It's the needles. It also includes the UP section. And then you got the BN, or well, it includes the UP section or UP Mojave or whatever the hell it is. I got all three. No, sorry, I got all two of these because I get confused there. I see Seligman sub now, and it's just like, well, I have A-line. I haven't used A-line in a long time. A-line is something that, if anything, this kind of remind me how much I like single track main lines. And I've been reluctant to try and do anything in CSX A-line because I know there's a new update coming out. Maybe I'll hold off until that update because, quite frankly, you know, I know Waycross is coming out, and I'm like, well, maybe that's going to change things, or I don't know. Tom's done a great job with A-line. I like Selkirk and Mohawk. It's from a dispatching point, it's not that appealing. It's rather relaxing, and I'm not really that much of an influence or influential in what I'm doing. And that's the thing I'm getting at is really it's irrelevant what I'm doing. It doesn't really mean that much anymore. There's been talk, you know, for the longest time, is there going to be another RTS version? I don't know. I really don't know because I honestly I don't know right now where my head is at yet. I thought this trip was going to give me plenty of free time where my son would be sleeping or my son would get bored on his computer. It didn't happen. And my son has had a tendency on some of the trips that we go to, like say for Fostoria, where we go over the same area of boring southwest Ontario, because if you ever driven the 401 in southwest Ontario between London and Windsor, it's pretty boring. Well, he'll pick up his computer and he'll start doing things. He isn't going to look at scenery. I thought when we were out on the prairies, he was going to start looking on his computer and doing things. The only time he did that was at night when we were sitting on our seats and it was too loud and noisy up at the dome. That was the one and only time he used his computer, other than taking pictures with. That's pretty amazing. Plus, not to mention, his sleep cycles are becoming very close to mine now. Mine's actually reducing a bit. His is also reducing, except I'm willing to get a little more sleep when I can, and doze a little bit more when I can, whereas he is more active and full of energy. So our sleep cycles are we tend to go to bed at the same time. The only time I ever have time for myself is usually when I wake up for him, because he doesn't want to go to bed at the same time. He doesn't want to go to bed earlier than me. He wants to go to bed later. So I'm like, okay, fine, we'll go to bed later. Then, you know, I know how he feels. He never wants to go to bed. I felt that same way. I still feel that same way. I don't want to go to bed either. I don't want to go to bed tonight. I will eventually. It's 7:20. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do tonight, but I'm just going to relax. There's a lot of things. I started going through my emails today. I started going through. I did have a message from somebody who was looking to join my server. I think he thinks I have a 24/7 server. I'm not sure what he knows or whatever. And I replied to him, and I basically said that just come on to the forum. Post questions there if you're not too sure where it's at or when I'm ever having a server. I said I may have a server on Monday night if I post it, and that's all. I put servers up whenever I want to. I'm not going back to a 24/7 server. I can tell you that much. That's just not happening. It's not. It's something that I have no intentions of doing. Um, I know some people are still doing it. I applaud them for doing it. It's just that's not the way I want to run a simulator. Unfortunately, having sessions and having times and picking routes, you're dividing people because people have certain times, people have certain routes they like. I had some of the greatest times in California. It was sad that came to an end the way I liked it, but it did, and it moved on. And as far as I know, it's doing okay. As far as I know, if they're having fun with Seligman, that's great. Sorry. Swallowing a hard swallow of Coke Zero here. Haven't had much of this lately. Kind of weird. So apparently I'm not so addicted to that after all. But because I certainly didn't. Well, I didn't really miss it that much. But so yeah, I don't want to drag this on any more than it has to be at this point. What the hell's the crossbuck.com? What is that? I just noticed that. I see Red 8 servers, and then I saw this. That's a new one. I gotta see that for a minute. Interesting. Ooh. That's kind of neat. I like the little graphics too. Version 1 support. So we got some 24-hour servers. We got what's an advanced system? I assume that's kind of like what we do, but I'm not sure. Doesn't really say what the hell that means. I'm trying to figure out what that means. I imagine it means that okay, so there's a forum membership required, version 1 support, part-time server. Huh. I don't see any of the newer ones, but that's interesting. Was that June 8th or August 6th? June's. Yeah, August 6th, I guess. Huh. Well, that's cool. Ooh, that's neat. I like those pictures. That's kind of neat. See, I never got even around to downloading External Dispatcher version 11. And there's a side of me that's kind of like thought about, and I could. There. How would you? How does this? How does this sound for an idea? Okay. I'll tell you what I like doing. Let me show you what I like to do. Now, aside from Railroad Tycoon, Transport Fever, I've been addicted to. There's been a few other things. Number one, I'm not worried about that kind of. I want to get up. Want to get up to speed on certain current events tonight. Do a few other things, but what I personally want to be able to do is not that so much. Although there's a side of me that likes that too, because despite the fact that that's double track, it's got the traffic to support it. So I've always liked running full capacity. This is where a double track mainline is essential, because not only is it just a, other than a conveyor belt of sorts, it actually does more. I can run any session, be it CSX or Conrail or whatever. I can run any session I want, and there's very little. There is some, but there's very little dispatching as far as decision making required in Selkirk Mohawk on my end, which actually helps because I'm able to run the industries and do a few other things, but it hasn't, it didn't really, other than one person who enjoyed it, and I appreciate the support, and a couple others, it didn't really do anything for me. But if I was to say what my ideal thing to run is, let me see here. Well, that's certainly one, and that goes into what could be coming for A-Line, at least some of it, because what'll happen, as you can see Waycross here, well, unfortunately, I don't have a predetermined session, but anyways, what happens here in Waycross, you've got all this varied traffic going all over the damn place. You got, Hague, Race Pond, but then you got Barganza. I forget how far he's going up. He's going up to Jessup. And then, of course, you've got the other section of the A-Line, which isn't as busy. See, that's where the A-Line kind of threw it for me, because as the A-Line currently runs in its RTS 24/7 format, basically through Tom, he runs it as a 24/7 server, but it really doesn't need, as he said, it doesn't really need a dispatcher so much. He just does it so that he can run the operations, and he's got a hell of a system going as far as switching goes. But he's right in that sense, because it really doesn't. I'm not too sure what was going to happen when it goes further. That makes me kind of want to say, well, maybe I should just run a little bit more on the A-Line, and maybe, just maybe, I can see myself expanding. This is one I'm almost interested in, the expansion, because now I'm like, okay, now we got an operating hump, which kind of has the creative juices flowing for me, because now I'm like, okay, I know it's a 100-car hump, I get it. I know you can't fill the whole thing up or else the whole thing will slow down, I get it. But from an operation standpoint, suddenly I'm back to the whole, I remember what it's like when, because when you look at the train schedules and you see the various times, sort by, let me see here, hold on a second, I don't want to drag this out too much longer, because like I said, I want to do, can I not sort by time passenger work? Sort by time, here we go. Okay, so you can see across the schedule here, they're spread out, and there's plenty of traffic that comes in and out at various times throughout the 24-hour schedule. What gets lost in the current A-Line, if you were to do it and to run, I guess you call that the advanced system, is what they're calling it. I call it, as for me, I call it basically a continuation server, where I think that's what they call it. I don't even know if that advances that term they use. I've always called it a continuation server. I basically save it at whenever we end the session, and then we continue it again. So what happens in the current A line, for if I was to run the current A line in a continuation sense, you've got this to Folkestone. Blah, blah, blah. Where am I going here? Nope. You've got blah, blah, blah. Why can't I find Folkestone? Is it because it's on here, or am I blind? Wow. I know. I'm looking right at this. I haven't seen this displayed for a while. Okay, Burrows, no. Sorry. Oh, yeah, there it is, right here. Okay. I always had a hard time finding Folkestone in this. And okay, so what happens is, with the current A line, you have that whole single track section, which really doesn't get much freights, even in the era that it was modeled. It has one supply train, which is really cool for the system that it supplies, which, you know, is, it really needs some work, put it that way. Does it really need RTS? Yeah, it could use it. But, so all the trains come out here, they do their little double track thing, and then they go a couple tracks, and then boom, that's it. So it's not much. And you expand this a little bit, then suddenly, like if you're expanding up to Jessup, which I think he's expanding that way from Birch, so he's got more single track, he's got more coming the other way. Suddenly, you need a dispatcher. And then suddenly you got some double track and single track, and you still have that little single track section, which is cool and interesting, and the lines aren't too busy, but they also offer the option of some smaller runs that you will see single track mainline action, potentially. Not guaranteed, but potentially. I don't think he's not going all the way to Savannah, I don't think. I thought originally he was heading more into Florida, but... So that's something that intrigues me. I've got the data on that, and in fact, I think I used the data in the original ideas as far as A-Line. And again, that was just, basically it was taken to a whole new level later on. Which, you know, it should be the way it, you know, basically it should be. So, but, you know, I look at other ones, ideally, I mean, this is BC Rail, which is now CN. Williams Lake, oh, that's where all the fires are happening, and then coming out of North Vancouver. Oh, that's cool. So here you have what's typically across most of Canada, and you have these single track main lines, and they're intriguing because they require dispatching. So I'm kind of getting to a point where I want to go back to the whole dispatching side of things, or operating under a dispatcher, but I want to do it under the right conditions. I don't want to just join, you know, and I could just join a server for the sake of joining a server and running. I don't even know if I'm interested in doing that. I've lost my way or my motivation to do what I used to do or what I used to love. The way California, we had it for a while there. It was great. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't, put it this way, I haven't seen too many, ooh, that was a nice little thunder, but I haven't seen too many more posts on it, so I don't know what's going on with it, so, but anyways, I'm hearing the thunder, so maybe that's my cue to call this for tonight for now. By all means, let me know what you think, post on the forum, if, you know, there's something you're interested in seeing. There's not much activity on the forum right now. And for those of you that are sending private messages to me, I'm trying to be very polite. I don't want to be standoffish, because I get a lot of posts, whether it be on YouTube, I've seen Facebook posts, I've seen YouTube. The best way to interact with me is on our RTS forum, and I know it's public, but I prefer to use that because I just don't have the time to, especially when people need questions. I would much rather answer the same question again, or send you a link, as far as, because what happens is on the forums, I can hyperlink you very quickly and show you what you need to read right on that Wikia. I can't do that on Facebook. I can't do that in emails. I can do it, but it makes it a lot more difficult. Damn, I might lose power any minute here, so I got a pretty good storm here, so I should get off. But it's a good thing I didn't have a session tonight. Okay, that's it. But anyways, I'm not trying to be rude about the whole thing, so I just want to I appreciate the people sending me feedback, and please post on the forums, and I check the forums as much as I can. I'm just getting back from vacation now. I will continue to check the forums regardless of my interest at this time, but other than that, I'm waiting to see what other people come up with, or hopefully what Run 8 comes up with, because we really need some editors. We really need some more third party. I think we need something new, not just let's expand every route that's out there. We really need new blood, I think. That's what I'm looking at right now for me personally. Something that I can start with very small, and say, hey, yeah, this is mine, and I can, other people can run it, or I can be part of it, or something. But anyways, that's all I got to say for that. So for now, anyways, have a good one. We'll talk to you later.